Welcome to my channel. This is my Subaru Brumby, also known as the Subaru Brat. It has low compression in the two right-hand cylinders. I suspect a blown head gasket. I plan on changing both side head gaskets without taking the engine out. It is an EA81 engine. Let's get started. If you're not sure of which engine you have, the EA81 looks like this and has EA81 right there on the engine. Which is obviously easier to see when the engine's out of the vehicle. It's right there. But I will not be taking the engine out. I will be doing the head gaskets while the engine is still in the vehicle. Going to take the spare tyre out, get that out of the way. Just like that. And because I have to drain the coolant, I will be taking the exhaust off from the heads, both sides. I don't want to be laying in coolant after draining the coolant and then have to take the exhaust off. So I'll do that before I drain the coolant. The exhaust bolts are up there, and the other side are there. It's a bit hard to record while I undo these, so I will undo them and come back to them. They're a 14mm nut. Sometimes you get the nut off, other times the whole stud comes off. All four of these came out with the whole stud. It doesn't matter either way, as long as you can get them out. Now I'm going to take off the lower radiator hose from the radiator. That's just to get all the coolant out. I'm just undoing the radiator hose clamp. It's the usual spring type clamp that has these plates and washer type setup. I'll probably end up changing it to a newer style. I'm just going to give the radiator hose a twist and it should come off. Nope, doesn't want to let go. Now I have a flat bladed screwdriver. I'm just going to gently try and free it up because I don't want to damage the radiator. Just trying to move the rubber hose a little bit. There it goes. Let's see if I can angle that coolant into the tub I've put underneath. I don't want to make too much of a mess. I'll just let that drain for a minute. The coolant doesn't only run through the engine, it also runs through the air intake manifold. As soon as you undo anything from on top of the engine, like the air intake manifold, you end up with coolant going everywhere. So it's easier just to drain it and then you don't have the problem. Now I'll let that drain for a little bit and come back to it. For safety, I'm going to disconnect the negative terminal on the battery. This is the same battery and terminals that I replaced in a previous video. As you can see, I didn't put anything on there, it's just dry and maybe just the slightest bit of corrosion there, but that's been like that for, I don't know, over 2 years. Never had a problem with it, well, except for the time that the alternator died, but that was the alternator, not the battery. Now the air filter, that's a 10mm. There's this bolt here, another bolt down the back here, somewhere over there. Is it there? Another bolt there, and the center holds it onto the carby. And do this center one. Now there's a few hoses around the outside. That one's a breather. So it's that one, and that one is joined up to the breather as well. There, and then flip. One underneath. Easy just to unplug it from here. There's a couple underneath at the other end. Unplug that from there. You can leave that like that if you want. You don't have to take the air intake manifold completely off. But I'm getting it out of the way so the camera can see in there better. Now on this side, you have the alternator in the way and its brackets. On the other side, you just have a few brackets. I'll get the alternator out of the way first. Usually easier to take the fan belt off of the water pump first, then off of the fan. And out of the way. As you can see, I don't have any air conditioning in the way. These bolts are a 12mm. Be careful not to ram that bolt into the radiator when you take it out. This is an 8mm off the back. This is also the main reason why I disconnected the battery. I'll put in the washer and the nut back on that and undo the plug. Just like that. Get that out of the way. Get that one out of the way. Now there's a couple of brackets to undo. These are a 12mm. Get these ones out of the way. Putting them back in their hole so I don't lose them or forget where they go. And I'll put that in the alternator where it belongs. That one as well with the alternator. Actually, that top alternator one I'll put back in here. It's a little back bracket. It'll just be swinging around and I'll probably knock it down and lose it under the cast on me. Take the breather hose off of there. And take the breather hose on this side. Take that off. Now would be a good time to take a photo of where your spark plug leads go. I'm only going to be doing one side at a time. I will only undo 2 spark plug leads at a time. But if for some reason you want to take both sides off and leave them off for a little bit, label them, take photos of them, whatever you need to do so you don't forget where they go. Also need to take the air intake off. It usually just undo the 3 bolts on each side. Give it a bit of a rock, it'll come off. Rock it back a bit out of the way. These bolts are also a 12mm. That one was hardly even tight. That back one's quite tight. And because I don't want to strip it, I will change that to an impact. As you can see, that'll hold the bolt better. Ooh, she feels seized. Have to spray some lubricant on that one. I'm going to tighten these other ones down. Take some load off of that one that seems to be stuck. And hopefully it'll come out without snapping it off. Both of them are pretty tight. While I wait, I may as well spray some lubricant on here. See if that wants to start moving. Stuck pretty good. We'll leave it for a bit longer. I've left it for over an hour. Let's see if it'll come out. Just trying to work it backwards and forwards a little bit. I don't think it's moving at all. That one was loose. Snapped. Snapped off at the head, at least. That's not at the base. Don't lose the washer. Right, that one's undone. If I can get it out of there. There's that one. Each side has 2 long ones and a short one. Just like that. Another one out. And the bracket that holds the spark plug leads. And that's another one out. I'm just going to disconnect the upper radiator hose from the back here. Now I'll see if I can wriggle that free. Starting to move. That side's free. Now because this side has a snapped bolt, it's going to be a bit harder to get off. There's bound to be a lot of rust and stuff on that bolt, stopping it from sliding off. Because I can't get it off that broken bolt, I'm going to take the carby off, flip it back over there, take the head off and slide the whole unit off all in one. I'm disconnecting the accelerator cable mount. The accelerator cable mount is a 12mm. There's that bolt. The carby is a 10mm. The distributor cap is in the way to get that nut there. I'm taking the carby off because I don't want to have to deal with this mess of hoses. One of the nuts. And spring washer. That nut fell down next to the carby. See if I can get it out with a little screwdriver. Nope, that's going to have to stay there. I'll get that one when I lift the carby off. And that one did the same thing. There's that one. And of course that one did the same thing. And its washer. Now there is just a few hoses to get off, which is a lot better than all of that. So one, a couple of screwdrivers and another screwdriver to try and lift it up a little bit, just to break that seal. There it is, up to about there is where it's all hard and perished. There's enough room to cut some off, gets soft about there. That way I don't need to replace the whole hose. And get this one out of the way. Unplug the carby. Clamp out of the way. Get that out of the way. A couple more down here. See if I can get that nut before I drop it in anywhere it shouldn't be. There it is. There's still a couple of washers around it. There's a washer. One more washer on this side. There's that washer. It's all 4 washers and all 4 nuts. Because the throttle cable goes underneath the bracket that holds the dipstick, I will have to undo that bracket. That is a 10mm. It's out of the way there. I think that's everything. I just put the distributor cap back on so it doesn't get damaged. There is a couple of other hoses under here. And get rid of this big one down the back. Okay, that one's off. And there is another one just here next to it. That one's off. With this one, it turns to a steel line here. You can either undo the bracket that holds it or follow it back and undo it from up there. This one's all tied up with all the other lines there, so I will undo it. Once I get these bolts out, I will put them back in the holes they came from. That way I won't lose them. Better yet, with these ones, I'll leave them in where they belong. Place that back in the spare tyre well, and this other one I will put back in its hole. Unplug that. Should be just about everything. No, one under there. That one didn't want to play nice. I think that is it. Oh, and another one further down. All this just because that one bolt snapped. And this one does not want to let go at all. Okay, it's starting to move. Okay, that's out of the way. And there's a line down here as well. Oh, that ripped. Have to replace that one. There is an earth bolt just here. Take off the wire, keep all the washers on there, put it back in the hole so I don't lose it. Now the bracket down the back here. There are two rocker cover bolts. There are 12mm. One and the other one. And give the rocker cover a wiggle. There it goes. I'll put the bolts for that in there. And because I have another EA81 that is not in a vehicle, I can show what I just did so you can have a better look at what I just did. Get that breather out of the way. Undo the rocker cover bolts. Just like that. And get the rocker cover off. Now to get these two bolts out while it's still in the vehicle. On either side of the engine there are two holes. One hole there and the other one there. That one still has the rubber plug in it. That one there, the rubber plug's fallen out of. They usually fall out, but you just flip them out like that. That will let you get to them two bolts from under the guard. This is a Leone. It also had a EA81 in it, and as you can see, the same holes on either side. And my sports wagon also an EA81. And again, same holes. on both sides, even though it's hard to see on this one because it has power steering. Now both of these bolts are a 17mm. You can get down there, but to get the bolts out you need to go through them holes. If you can't get down there with the tool you have, you can always put an extension on and come through the holes. As you can see, it is pretty tight down there, but you can get there. Now I loosened one a little bit and then loosened the other one a bit. Don't want to go loosening one a whole heap and then potentially twisting it. Now the front one, there's heaps of room, but the back one, once you get so far out, you might need an extension because the further you come out, obviously the gap gets smaller. Okay, that one's out all the way, and that one's out all the way. Now this is where them holes come in handy. Into the hole, I can let that rest there for a little bit. The other one into the hole, and again letting that rest there. And that just comes straight off. Now I'll go under the guard and pull the bolts through. There's the two bolts. Now inside here, if that rotates, you can't get the bolt through anymore. There is a channel. If you have trouble getting the bolts back in, it's because the shaft is not lined up. Now I'll put that in the rocker cover, and again I'll show what it looks like over here. That one's out all the way, and that one's out all the way. The head bolts are these ones, 3 across there and 4 across there. And because I forgot to show the air intake bolts before, I'll do them now on the other engine. I'll loosen them ones, and the ones on the other side. So 3 on that side, back on the other side again. And normally these bolts come out. You give that a wiggle and it's off, and the head ends just there. So normally you don't have to pull all the carburetor and everything off of it. And now for the head nuts. I'm doing every second one. However, I forgot to pull the push rods out. Using the same holes that are in the chassis to get them out. Get them out of the way. They're all the same length, and if you tip them up, they have holes right through them and you will have oil come out. May as well get the spark plug leads off. Just a little bit, get them started. I'm going round again, just loosening a little more. They're all pretty loose now. They're all loose enough now that I can get them all off by hand. Each one has a nut and a washer. Some of the washers get a little bit stuck. That washer doesn't want to come off yet. And that's the last of the nuts. It's that washer. And there's just that one washer there that's stuck. Now there are a couple of points you can lever off of. However, do not go down where the gasket is. One started to move. That side started to move. I was expecting that side to be a little bit harder because of the washer that was stuck on there. There's that washer. Now because of that broken bolt, the idea is to take the head off and all the intake manifold at the same time. Feels like I'm getting caught up on something. Just moved a bit then. Normally that bolt doesn't snap and this isn't an issue. There's a hard line along the back here. It's hitting the oil fill up tube. It seems to be what I'm caught up on. And there's another hard line that goes underneath. That's not hitting yet, but it's not far off. Washer on that one. My phone's battery went flat and I didn't notice, but I got it off. I had to cut it. The bolt was very much perished in there. That's what's left of the bolt. That is stuck in there and not moving. So I am going to put a replacement head. Obviously I'm going to have to replace the air intake manifold. It would be because that gasket had leaked or been leaking for a long time. Luckily one of my spare parts, Brumbies, has the same air intake manifold on it, with all the same hose points. This other one that's already out has the spots for the hoses to join up to, but they're left blank. And down there as well, including that bit. They've all been left blank. Where the original one has all these bits already on it. Which is the same as the spare parts Brumby. So I will rip out the air intake manifold out of the spare parts Brumby and also one of the heads. I removed the broken bolt by welding a nut on the end. The first one broke off. The second one, I wiggled it back and forwards just a little bit, and well, that's when that one broke off. But this one, just as I thought it was going to break off, it started moving a little bit, and I sprayed some lubricant on there and got some more movement, and it slowly started to come out with going backwards and forwards. So now that's out of the hole. They are an 8mm thread. Now I'm going to go over the area with some air to get rid of the metal shavings from the grinder. Now I'll take the head off. Just like that. There we go, there's the head gasket. And as usual, the head gasket's blown out between the two cylinders. That's why I had no compression. I'm going to use a razor blade to carefully clean the area that the head gasket is going to sit. That seems to be clean enough. That's mainly to get all the bits of old gasket off, making sure there's no pieces of the old gasket left. Now I'll do the same on the head. Got a bit of damage there. I'll either get a new head for next time or get this one machined next time, but that'll do for now. This is what it looks like outside the vehicle. As you can see, the air intake manifold is still there. You don't have to take it off like I did on the other engine. That was just because of that broken bolt. Just enough to get them loose. Push rods, all the same length. All 7 nuts and their washers out of the way. There are lever points here, here, one over here, just to get it started moving. Just like that. You shouldn't have to pry it very much. And that just slides out of the way. This head gasket's still good in the center, but as you can see, the air intake manifold is not in the way. Normally connected onto here. When the 3 bolts are out on each side, it's a flat surface on both the manifold and the head. But as you saw before, it does not need to be out of the vehicle to get this off. A lot of people prefer it out of the vehicle, but it doesn't have to be. I will be getting the gaskets out of this gasket set. There's the part number. When you're opening the packaging, be careful not to damage any of the gaskets. Included in with the gaskets is the instructions on torque settings and tensioning pattern of the head bolts. If your gaskets didn't come with this, you can always just copy off of this one. The manual states to paint some gasket stuff on the gaskets to help them seal. This is what I'll be using. The manual also states to paint both sides with a brush, and conveniently this comes with a brush. As you can see, I have painted both sides. Now to install it. Make sure you put this on the right way around. I know someone that did this on a different model Subaru and they put it the wrong way around. Now that is on, time for the head. Just like that. Going to put the push rods in. I'm placing the push rods in the holes under the guards. Put those two in place. And the other two. Put them in, give them a bit of a wiggle. When the inner end doesn't move anymore, it's sitting in its little cup. And because these bolts are too long, they have to go through the same two holes under the guards. And the book states to put some oil on them threads. This is just engine oil. I've just realised this sequence doesn't work. According to this sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once you do 4 and 5, now you can't get to 1 anymore. So this sequence will not work because that's in the way. Because 4 and 5 means that I can't get back to number 1, I'm going to have to change the sequence. I'm going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and go approximately a quarter of a turn on each until I get to the 30. Then I will do it again until I get to 58, and I saw somewhere in the book that it stated something like wait half an hour before you go to the 64. Well, that's what I'm going to go with. Now that that's all out of the way, the book also stated that all these threads here are supposed to have oil on them before you put the nuts and washers on them. The strange thing is the book states the tightening sequence to be pretty much the same as that piece of paper. All them threads now have oil on them. There's all the nuts and the washers. Obviously putting all the washers on first. And now for the nuts. I've added an extra step. I've set this to 15 to start with instead of the 30. Just going with taking up the slack in the nut at the moment. Well, in all the nuts at the moment. So, a little bit more than finger tight. They're all at 15. Now I'm going to take them all to 30. They're all at 30. Now for the 58, going with a little bit on each one, trying to keep the pressure even. And the battery on my phone went flat again. I'm just checking one more time. They're all there, and this is where the book says I'm supposed to wait half an hour before going to the next step, which is 64. So I'll come back in about half an hour. It has been about half an hour, so now we're going to 64. A little bit at a time. Apparently that one's there. There's that one. That one. Not that one yet. Not that one yet. Still there. All the center ones are still there. Oh, there we go. Looks like they were just really close. Now I'll put the push rods back in. They all seem to be in place. Now the bolts are already through waiting. They all seem to be in place. I'll just check to make sure everything's in place. Now I'm going to take these to 64 like the rest of them. They're at 64. Now I will need to adjust these. So at this moment I will leave the rocker cover off and do the other side. I forgot to mention at this stage you can put your spark plug leads back on. just so you don't mess up your spark water. This out of the way. Take the rubber plug out. A little bit of persuasion. It was moving but wouldn't come off. The other one. And just slide them into the holes. The two bolts wouldn't go into their hole because I forgot to take the rubber cap off. Both the caps are on under the guard. There they are. They're the two that were under the guard. Now that the rubber caps are out of the way, the bolts have got somewhere to go. Just like that. And I'll grab the bolts and the push rods. Just like on the other side, using the holes in the chassis. And get them out of the way. One at a time because the ends are too big to fit through the hole at the same time. Get the spark plug leads out of the way. Oh, apparently that one's broken. Oh, that one didn't want to come off. Oh, it's broken as well. I plan on putting new leads on it anyway. Just like the other side, just getting them started. A little bit of pressure, doesn't take much. Now this is stopping the head from coming off. 10mm bolt there, this one's already missing. A couple of 12mm bolts here. And a 14mm bolt here. And that is all that's holding that in place, other than the obvious fittings at either end. Now I will undo the same bracket. Just doing that 10mm bolt now. Okay, there's the 10mm bolt. And now for the 14mm. There it goes. That one was crazy tight. And that's the 14mm. There's that bracket. Now there should be nothing else holding it. It's extremely tight getting out of there. But here it is. Now for the old head gasket. That one's not blown, but who knows how much longer that would have lasted. And just like the other side, I have painted the gasket on both sides and cleaned the surfaces off with that razor blade. Gasket is in place. Now just squeeze the head in there. There we go. Now that's back in place. Put some oil on the threads. I've put engine oil in this. And the washer's on first. I'm going to do pretty much the same thing as what I did on the other side, obviously except for the other bracket that's there that holds that piece of pipe that goes down to the exhaust. And just like on the other side, I'm going to start with around 15 just to get them that little bit past finger tight. Need a short extension just to get past that pipe. Now, because my gimbal went flat, I will continue going the same as what I did on the other side. And my phone's on 1%, so it's about to go flat as well again. And I will just do the head nuts the same as what I did on the other side, just working my way around in the same pattern and same sequence of getting more and more firm as I go. And I'll start recording again once I get some charge. When you're doing your valve clearance, you've got your feeler gauges. You put the gauge between here and the valve. To adjust it, you've got a lock nut and the adjustment bolt there. The lock nut is a 12mm. The adjustment bolt is square. I don't have anything small enough to go on that, so I'm using a small adjustable. Just make sure you adjust it on there tightly. You don't need to round that off. The intakes are on the outside. The clearance for the intake is 0.23mm to 0.27, and the exhaust, obviously the ones on the inside, 0.33 to 0.37. On the crank pulley there is a 22mm, and turn the engine over clockwise to release the pressure off of each valve so you can adjust your clearance. I'm using a 22mm open ender. It's just a bit easier to get an open end on there than a ring. Doing this is also a good chance to make sure that you have all the push rods in place. If one of the valves are not moving, you know you have not got that push rod in place. So as you turn it, make sure they're all moving. I'm at a point where all four have no pressure on them, so I'll check the clearance. The intakes are really close. The exhaust definitely needs some adjustment. The closest feeler gauges that I have without adding any of the others to make up the difference are for the intake, for the exhaust. Loosening off the lock nuts for both intake that back one feels pretty good. That front one feels pretty good now. Make sure you do this with a cold engine. I'll check that adjustment again, make sure it didn't move. Yep, feels pretty good. Going to change to a shorter 12mm because there's not a lot of room. And that one's tight. Make sure the clearance didn't move. Yep. Both of them feel pretty good. I just zoomed in a little bit. Hopefully you can see better now. I'm doing the exhaust, which are the two inner. That one was super tight. Back the lock nuts off a bit. The .33 gauge. Okay, they feel pretty good now. I'll lock them into position. Give that a check. Yep, that feels good. And that one's tight. I'll give that one a check. Check the intakes again, just to make sure nothing's moved. It all feels good. Now for the other side. I'm turning the engine over clockwise again, and make sure they all move, and to get into the location that none of them have any strain on them. There's the forward exhaust. The back exhaust. The forward intake. And the back intake. And that's where none of them have any pressure on them. And just like the other side, the intake are the two outside ones and the exhaust are the two inside ones. That front one's a little bit out and that back one's super tight. And for the exhaust, that front one's out a bit and that back one's out a lot. Loosen off the intakes. I just backed that back one off because of how tight it was. It feels pretty good now. Bring this front one in a bit. That one feels pretty good. Now I'll lock them off there and recheck them. Yep, that feels good there. Both intakes are good. Both exhausts are good. I have taken the old gaskets off the rocker covers and given them a bit of a clean up. They're the old gaskets. They're the new gaskets. And where the bolts go through, also have a new gasket. That's what the old ones look like. That's what the new ones look like. That's the side that goes to the rocker cover. It's got a little rubber grommet in there. And the other side has a washer. The bolts go through that way. So the washer side is against the head of the bolt and the rubber side is against the rocker cover. There are 4 of them in the gasket kit. There's all 4 of them. And the opposite side. 2 for each side, and the rocker cover gaskets just sit in there like that. And the other side, as you can see, both of them are identical. Rocker cover with the new gasket. And the bolts already have their new gasket on there. These are a 12mm. The torque for these bolts, according to the book, is supposed to be around 3 Newton meters. I don't have anything that torques that low. So I'm just going to do them firm. Trying to do them evenly, just by feel. Just keep an eye on them. If they start leaking, tighten them up a bit more. Unless of course you have something to get to the right torque. That should do it about there. And the same on the other side. Make sure that gasket doesn't fall out of its position. On this side it tried to fall out of its position. Just getting them finger tight to start with. And a wiggle to make sure it's sitting in the correct position. And of course these ones have the same torque setting as the opposite side. That feels pretty good about there. Yep, that's feeling pretty good. Now because I've not long changed the thermostat in this one, I'm going to use this thermostat on the other intake manifold. Thermostats go in with the little hole to the top. There's a channel sitting there for the hole to sit. Sits in there like that. And that goes over the top. In the gasket kit that I got for the head gaskets, there is a rubbery type thermostat gasket. Because this one is new, it's not too bad. A little bit came off around the edges, but it seems okay. And that seems a little bit better than the other one, maybe. I'll compare the two and obviously pick the better one. Get this out of the way. Now these two bolts are 12mm. I'll put that in the spare parts pile, use that one. The old gasket out of the way. And that thermostat doesn't look too bad, but they're only something like 20 bucks for a new one. And that one's only a couple of months old anyway, so I'll use that one. Might keep that one for emergencies. I'll keep the two of them together. Now I'm not going to clean up that surface because that's already got the gasket on there, and I will keep that rubbery gasket for emergencies. Right, that looks pretty good now. A little bit of stuff sitting in the bottom there. Just tip that out. Now the thermostat goes in with that little bit to the top. That should be tight enough. And because I saved this gasket, if that starts leaking, I will just swap that gasket over. Now I'm going to clean off the area where the air intake goes on. Again, just using a razor blade. And the same on the other side. Now I've cleaned the area for the new air intake gaskets. I will blow off the old gasket. Some of it went down inside the holes, so I'll get rid of all that. Now I have cleaned both sides of that, and while the gaskets for these are there, I noticed the gaskets for the carby are not. It's supposed to be a full set, and when I look at the picture of the gaskets that are supposed to come in the set, that is supposed to be included. It's not there. I will get in touch with the people I got the gasket kit off and see what they have to say about that. Either way, I will have to get the gasket for there. The underneath is fine. There is a gasket that sits underneath there as well. When you look at most full sets, they show a gasket for there and a gasket for on top, both of them being the same shape. moment I'm just getting it to sit in place. I will see if I can sort this mess of hoses out. I've got the heater hose here. It goes onto metal pipe. There's a heater hose that comes from back there, comes along here, and underneath here. That one there. Joins onto this pipe, metal one at the back. Because that doesn't have a clamp on it, that would be one of the ones that got wrecked. So I'll put a new hose clamp on that. And I'll give it a tighten. It should be tight enough. And that one onto there. One on here. Right. That on there, and this piece it's on there. I haven't bolted the air intake down yet. That's so I can move it around to get to all the hoses. This piece goes down the back here. They're not completely tight yet. That one's tight. And I'll go back and check this one. It's tight. And this one's a 10mm one. Obviously it doesn't have to be as tight, it's only 10mm. And it only holds the oil fill up neck. It's plenty tight enough. I'll give these ones a tighten up. And again, they're only 10mm. Because this carby is off of a different air intake, some of the hoses like these ones, are not on the other air intake, but they are on this one. That'll just let me pick the best ones, and I'll go with whatever I think is the better. But until I get that gasket, I can't put the carby on, and I will need to look at which hoses I left on the other air intake manifold, and I'll have to work out which ones I need to remove either off of this air intake manifold or the carby, or if there's a better hose on the other one, I'll bring it over to here and use it. I remember this vacuum down here broke off, but that is already on the other air intake manifold, so I will just swap the broken one for the not broken one. Can't really get the rest of them done up until I've got that carburetor sitting with the gasket. It sits there, but once I lift it off to do the gasket, I will be caught up by all the hoses. I still need to work out where this nightmare of hoses goes. Some of them are quite obvious, like this one here. It is lined up perfectly just to go onto there. Just like that. I think that one went onto the bottom of the airbox. That one's for the carby. That one goes onto the manifold. This one comes from the brake booster, goes onto there. Otherwise your brakes won't work properly. It's on there. That's that broken vacuum line. Swap that out for one that was already on the manifold. I think that both of them went to the airbox. A couple down the back that I'm not sure of just yet. That one looks like it wants to go there. I will check the other manifold to see if it's on there. No, there's no hose on the other manifold, so I'll swap that one and put that one on there. That one. Goes on there. Now this one has to be swapped out for that one. It doesn't want to come off. I'll have to swap it the other way around. One off of there, that one onto there, and put the clamps back on. Just making sure I have enough room for when I get that gasket. Don't want to have to undo all the hoses again. There's that one. There's this horrible water hose. I've had it split before and I replaced it with a bit of fuel hose. It runs from here down to behind the distributor. It had a tiny split in it and I couldn't find where it was leaking coolant from. Every now and then there'd be just one or two drips under the car and I couldn't find it. And one day I noticed the top of the engine had some coolant and I tracked it down to this little piece of hose. The original piece of hose wasn't very strong. So I swapped it out for fuel hose, hoping that I'll never have that problem again. Okay, that's on there. I need to do the clamp up. Should be tight enough. That one should be tight enough. Okay, that one's on there. one's done. There's an empty line just here. One there and one there. I'm just wondering if the tube goes between the two, but there doesn't seem to be anything on the other air intake. Breathe on. And it's clamp. And that goes onto the air box. That one goes onto there. That one to there. That one there. Goes to there. This one here goes to there. That one goes to that blue one there. That one there goes to here. One to there. Okay, that one there comes over to here. That's why I couldn't find it. It got twisted up down the back there. These are the air intake manifold gaskets. I'm going to put some of this on there to try and stop the coolant from leaking and causing corrosion. That's one painted both sides. I will put that in position and then paint the other one. And that's the other one, painted on both sides. Place that in position. Before putting the bolts in, I'm going to rub a little bit of grease on there, again to try and stop the corrosion. I don't want to have another bolt get seized next time a head gasket blows, because the EA81 is known for blowing head gaskets. And the same on the longer bolts. You have to get that gasket lined up or the bolts won't go through. Make sure you line up with this back bracket. Put that back in there. I'm not tightening them down yet. I just want to make sure it's sitting in position properly first. The torque for these bolts is 18 to 22 Newton meters or 13 to 16 foot-pound. That's one. That's two. That's three. That's this side anyway. Now for the other side. That one. That one. That's that one. Now they're all tight. These are the gaskets that were missing out of the kit. I let them know and they were nice enough to send me some. They go underneath the carburetor. There is a plate there. One goes on either side of the plate. But because the plate stayed on that intake manifold, I'm only going to replace the one gasket on top. I'll give that a bit of clean up. I'll put a rag over there to try and prevent anything from falling inside the intake manifold while I give this a bit of clean up. Now I'll put one of the gaskets on top. Just like that. And put the carburetor on top of that while I line up these hoses with the two pipes at the front. That's in place now. The carburetor is held on with 4 nuts that have spring washers. These nuts can be a bit fiddly to get on. The back ones are easier than the front ones. All 4 of them are on. I just need to tighten them. Just have to move that rubber hose out of the way a bit so I can get a bit of a swing on this nut. It's firm, it's not completely tight. I want to make them all firm before I tighten them down. This back one is quite hard to get to. I had to get an open ender for it. All the other ones I can fit a ring on, but that one, you can only get an open ender on it. Have to go back to the short one for this. It's tight enough for them. And make sure you put that little hose back on. Now they're all tight, and if you took that hose off, make sure you put it back on. Either of them ones. Well, any of them really, I suppose. Now to put the alternator back in. When you're putting this piece on, there is a spacer. Sits under there. Don't lose your spacer. Right, they're all firm, so now I'll tighten them. Now this one, that one's not tight yet. I want to make sure it's straight before I tighten it. Should be right about there. I'll do that. This wire goes onto this bolt, and this plug plugs into here. And this one has the nut in it for the long bolt. So that goes on the back. There's a nut and a washer. That's what holds this wire on. And the washer. And the nut holds all that together. Do that up. Don't go too tight on that, it is only 8mm. Put a rubber cap on, put the plug, and plug it into the hole, like that. Put the fan belt back on, put it around the main pulley first, then the alternator, then you can put it on the water pump and the fan. Water pump and the fan. Pull it tight. Give it a tighten. Just like that. Make sure it's tight. This top one holds the air box. I will need to loosen that bolt so I can get that into position for the air box. And because the spark plug leads broke, these bits came out the end of the spark plug lead. I have some new spark plug leads. There's the part number. The ones that have that plug on the end go into the spark plugs. This one goes from the coil. Take the old one off. And put the new one on. Now all the spark plug leads are a different length. Work out which one fits best and put it in that position. As that lead's the shortest, I will be using the shortest lead. Now with the longest two, they're almost the same length. I'll put the longest one to the back, the shorter one of the two to the front. Surprisingly, that actually went into that bracket under there. I thought these leads were going to be much too thick to fit in there. sitting there. Oh, I don't want to go into that one. They're sitting quite happily there anyway. The accelerator cable hasn't been put on yet. I'm putting the accelerator cable bracket back on. Tighten that. Right, that's tight. And the bolt for the dipstick bracket. Because the accelerator cable sits happiest just underneath the where the dipstick bolts onto the bell housing. Well, it does in this one anyway. Yours might be different. Yours might sit better over the top. And it's got a strap for the accelerator cable to sit in. Now for the airbox and all the wonderful tubes that go to that. I nearly forgot to connect this one up. There is a T-piece. It's a black T-piece down below here. Let's see if I can get it to come out a bit so you can see it. It's just there. It goes on like that. And there is a blue T-piece just here, up high. That's what that one goes onto. And this one goes on here, like that. Now I want to pick this up and put it onto that blue one there. Okay, that's on. Get this bolt here, come through the middle, just like that. Take that bolt out there. Try and get this one to line up with that, and the one on the alternator, which I've loosened off the bolt that holds this one, that holds it onto the alternator. Get that to line up. Once I get that lined up, I'll retighten that bolt. That clips into there. Get that to line up there. Do that one up. That one's nice and tight. Tighten these ones up. That's tight enough. That one's tight enough. Now I'll retighten the alternator bolt that holds the bracket, that also holds onto the front of the air filter box. It's tight. Is this breather? Goes from the rocker cover up to here. There's this little one at the front here, connects onto this one. And this one under here. That goes on there. The radiator hose. And the lower radiator hose. That one's tight. Now I'm going to put all the plugs back in. These are the plugs that sit in the rails. Well, I guess I won't be putting these back in. These are the plugs that sit in the rails that you get the bolts through. They've all shrunk and they're too small for the holes. The rubber plugs fit under the guards nice and tight. I put all the ones under there to try and stop mud from flicking up and filling the rails with mud. From the engine bay side, they're all loose and they'll just fall out and I'll end up losing them. So there's no point in putting the ones in the engine bay. You put the battery back in. Make sure you clamp your battery down. You don't want it flying around. Even though this battery's been in here for years and only had the slightest bit of corrosion, I'm going to put some Vaseline on the terminals. It stops the air getting to the terminals and causing corrosion. It's cheap and you can get it from just about anywhere. This is one I keep in the shed. I've been using it for years on batteries and never had a problem. I didn't use it when I put these terminals on because I wanted to see if paying the extra money for these terminals was worth it. and to be on there for years and only have the slightest bit of corrosion, I think it was pretty well worth it. It's tight enough for that one. Tight enough. I will clean up all the tools out of the engine bay, fill it up with water and give it a test start. I'm going to use water and not coolant because if there's any leaks, I don't want to lose any coolant. And once I am sure there are no leaks, I will drain the water out and refill it with coolant. There's both old exhaust gaskets and the new ones that came in the kit. Because it's too hard to video while I'm under there, I will bolt them up with the new gaskets and come back to you. The torque for the bolts for this part of the exhaust are 25 to 34 Newton meters or 18 to 25 foot-pound. I'll do it with the new exhaust gaskets and come back to you. The exhaust is on and torqued up the specs. I have rainwater in the radiator. I don't want to waste coolant if it starts leaking anywhere. This will be the first start up with the new head gaskets. I was just going to take the battery out to charge it and noticed I forgot to put the earth wire on. So don't forget to connect up your earth wire to your engine. Yeah, earth wire connected and tight. I haven't strapped the battery down yet and I'm going to try again. There we go, running on all 4 cylinders again. I will strap the battery back down and take it for a test run now. I went for a test drive. There's a little bit of noise coming from the valves. I must have got the valve adjustment wrong or one of them has moved. Let's get this out of the way. I've given it an oil change and flushed out the radiator and filled it with coolant. Get that out of the way. I've got a light to try and make it a bit brighter for the camera down there so you can see easier. Now this back one seems to be quite loose. Now I don't know if that's error from me or it's settling. Either way I'll have to readjust it. I will go through all of them on each side and readjust all of them. Just going to turn the engine over a little bit just so I can see which ones are loose. That one's quite loose as well. That one's not too bad. It is a little loose, but it's not too bad. Same with that one. The adjustment on the 2 intakes are too much. The exhaust is supposed to be 0.33 millimeters. to 0.37 millimeters. Yeah, that's too much on both of them. And the intakes are supposed to be a smaller gap, and well, they're bigger. So I'm looking for 0.33. That's about it there. This is supposed to be done when the engine's cold. That is a very fraction too tight. That feels pretty snug there. Now I'm going to turn the engine over some more to get the other exhaust. Right, the other exhaust is going in there. Keep turning until it comes all the way out, and then adjust that one. It's come all the way out. Now the intake is going in. I have both of the exhausts set to 0.33 millimeters. I don't know why the camera stopped recording them, but it did, and I don't know where it stopped recording. I'm going to do the intake now. They are from 0.23 millimeters to 0.27 millimeters. I've already loosened off the back one. Not quite there. Right, that one's about right. Now for the front inlet. Right, that exhaust is in, so this one should be right to go where it is. That one feels pretty good as well. Just try the next size down. Yep, next size down passes through easily. That one's nice and firm. Now to put the rocker cover back on. Let's get the cover back on. Be careful of the gasket, you don't want to wreck your new gasket. That's one bolt in. Now for the other bolt. Torque for these bolts, 3 to 4 Newton meters. As I mentioned before, I don't have anything to go that small. I should get one day, but at this time I don't have one. So again, I'm doing them firm. And if it starts to leak, do it up a little bit. It should be tight enough. And put the breathers back on. In the clamps. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, but because the other side has less room, the camera won't be able to see in there, so I won't record that, but it's basically the same process, just on the other side. Hope this helps. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time. Little bit of a bonus for everyone that stayed till the end. The oil cap gets to the point where it starts rattling, like this one does. I was just wondering if that rubber gasket was included in the gasket kit, so I went and had a look. These are all the gaskets I haven't used yet. And in this bag here, it's got some O-rings and stuff in it. Was this one that looks exactly the same as the one that's in there. Just not all shrunk and worn out. So I'll flip that out of there. I'll give that a clean and put that in there. Gave the cap a clean. That's the old one. It's firmer than the new one, and when you compare the size, the old one has shrunk a little bit. It has all the exact same lines on it. And it fits in there like it's supposed to. Let's go put it on, see if it still rattles. Oh, it's definitely tighter. A little bit of play there, but it's definitely tighter than it was. I might just tap them tabs down a little bit, and that'll fit nice and tight. It won't rattle around anymore. Alright, I thought I'd just share that little bit of a bonus. See you next time.